remember getting off the phone and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and just thinking, like being so elated, but then there was also this immediate sense of dread, like, oh my gosh, now I have to go. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into the first of what I hope is many YouTube videos and different types of content that I'm going to be creating to document my Bonderman Fellowship experience. So for this first video, I really just wanted to introduce to anyone who's watching what the Bonderman Fellowship is. And I also wanted to talk about, or maybe tell the story of how I found out that I was going to get to go, and maybe a little bit about what the application process is like, if by chance this might reach someone who's interested in applying. And I also want to cover where I'm going to go, because it is a travel fellowship. So I want to talk about the different places I'm thinking of going and kind of where I'm at in the planning process. And then also just some general chat, I guess, about how I'm feeling, and maybe what some of my fears or anxieties are and what I'm really excited for. Okay, so number one, what is the Bonderman Fellowship? So this is a program that is offered at both the University of Washington and also the University of Michigan. It is funded by a gentleman named David Bonderman, who is a very successful American business person that went to the University of Washington for his undergraduate studies. From my understanding, he had a really transformative study abroad experience when he was in graduate school. And so now that he's able to financially, he gives this endowment to the University of Washington and to the University of Michigan to fund these programs. It also takes place at the University of Michigan because I believe that's where his daughter went to get her undergrad. So it's offered at two different universities. However, they're run as separate programs. They're run independently. And really the nuts and bolts of what the fellowship are this. It is a travel fellowship that really the foundational intent is for it to be a personal development opportunity. You cannot work, you cannot study while you're on the trip, you can't volunteer really in any significant capacity, and they generally don't really want you traveling with any organized groups or tour groups or travel groups or anything like that, and you are to travel alone. It is for 8 months, and you are to go to at least 6 countries in 2 different regions of the world. When you apply, you in theory could apply to go anywhere. Part of the application process is that you provide an itinerary and you explain where you want to go and why. So in theory you could apply kind of wherever you want in the world. However, your application isn't really competitive unless you apply for what one might consider to be non-Western countries. They really want students to travel and be challenged and go somewhere that's culturally very different from what we know here in the United States, or even in say something like Europe or Australia or New Zealand. Okay, so second, I want to talk about my experience applying for the Bonderman Fellowship, what that looks like. I want to touch on this because I think it might be interesting, for people to hear, but also, if there's anyone out there who stumbles upon this, who's looking to apply for the Bonderman, I think it might be good insight into, what all of that entails. So I first learned of this opportunity through the Communication Leadership Program, and I knew immediately that it was something I wanted to apply for. However, I will say I don't think anyone who applies for something like this, like the Bonderman or the Fulbright or any type of pretty awesome scholarship or fellowship expects to actually get it. And I definitely did not. I, really read this and thought it was kind of a long shot, and, was something that, I really felt like I wanted to do and put my all into to get, to give myself the best chance to get it. But it really was a big surprise when I learned that I was going to have the opportunity to go. So the first thing you have to do in the application process is write an essay, and you have to also provide an itinerary of where you want to go and explain in just a few sentences for each place why it is you want to go there. And in terms of why you want to go, they don't really require you. It's very open-ended. The whole thing is very open-ended. They don't require you to have an overarching reason why you want to go on the trip. They don't require that you have something that ties together the different countries that you want to go. There doesn't have to be a theme. You could just pick a bunch of different individual countries that for individual reasons you want to go to those. But for me, I have been in the food and beverage industry essentially my entire career up until very, very recently. And even then I work in the domain of hospitality. So, for me, food and beverage is something that has been really transformative for me, both professionally, but also interpersonally. And I knew that I wanted to better understand the world through food and food sharing, and sort of how communities are built around food. I knew that that was kind of the general theme that I was going for in terms of my trip. And that definitely did inform a lot of the countries that I chose to go or chose to apply for. So after you write your essay and you submit your itinerary, there's a second round that you, if you're a finalist, you're invited to an interview round. And that was a panel interview that consisted of people who are, in the program, advisors in the program for scholarships and fellowships and whatnot. And then they also had some alumni of Bonderman alumni who have been on the trip before, and they asked, a series of questions, that a lot of which related to the essay I wrote and where I want to go and how I might feel like I would cope with certain situations, and just kind of, more about me and who I am and what's informing my decision to want to do this. So I have to say the process for me in and of itself was really empowering, because at every step of the way, I just felt like I stayed really true to who I was. And part of that, I think I credit to the process, the application process itself, because it's so open-ended. And so there weren't really these specific requirements that you needed to hit, other than, being a University of Washington student and things like that. But there just weren't a lot of, expectations in terms of like skill set or knowledge needed in order to go. And so it felt very freeing to just let myself dream about, if I were going to take an 8-month trip anywhere in the world for whatever reason I want, where would I want to go? And I just felt like it gave me an opportunity to be introspective about what I want to learn and what I would do if I got this opportunity. So I felt like throughout the process, I stayed really true to things that felt really aligned with who I am and what's interesting to me. And, I think, with the help of a lot of friends and family who helped me write my essay and edit my essay and helped me do research about the different locations that I thought I wanted to go. It really did take a village. I just felt like throughout the whole process, I was really in tune with what was really true for me. That brings me to where am I going? So when I applied for the fellowship, I originally applied with 9 countries in 3 different regions. So my original itinerary that's on my application is Japan, Thailand, Vietnam, Egypt, Morocco, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, including the Galapagos, and Peru. And I'm hoping to still go to most of those countries. However, 9, like as I've, learned and kind of talked to other fellows and, had a lot of time to think about it, I think that 9 countries is a lot, even in an 8-month time frame. It comes out to, roughly 3-ish weeks in each spot, in each country, which sounds like a lot, but I think over that period of time could be really exhausting. So I think I'm going to pare down the amount of countries I'm going to, which I think I would have to do anyway, because there are some pretty intense restrictions, not intense, but some pretty strict restrictions about safety and COVID protocol and things like that. So I'm still figuring out what my final itinerary is going to be, but I'm definitely hoping that, the 2 regions I'm going to go to are Asia and South America. All right, so finally, the last thing I want to talk about in this first video is how I'm feeling, because, one thing about this program is they I guess you could say favor or like to give people this opportunity who have not traveled abroad much before, or if they haven't traveled in this capacity before, whether it be maybe they haven't traveled solo, or maybe they haven't traveled for this long, or they haven't gone to these countries, or what have you. They really want this to be a new, challenging and enriching experience. And so for me, I really have done next to no international travel before. So for me, this is, when I was informed that I got this opportunity, it's kind of a funny story. I was at home by myself. I knew that the call was supposed to come that day, and I had been down in Tacoma. I was in Seattle at the time, living in Seattle at the time, and I knew that the call was supposed to come that day. And I waited sort of all day. I was down in Tacoma, nannying for my nephew, and I just kind of was like waiting, and I didn't really know, actually looking back now I say call, but I didn't know if it was going to be a phone call or an email. I sort of figured that maybe if it was a no, I would get an email, but if it was a yes, that maybe they would call me. They didn't tell us how we would be notified. And so I was checking my email all day and checking my phone all day, and nothing. And so I finally get home around 3 or 4 p.m. that afternoon, and almost as soon as I walked in the door, my phone rang, and it said University of Washington on it. And I just knew that, oh my gosh, this is the phone call, but I still didn't know what to expect, because I thought maybe, as a courtesy, they might call the people, which maybe they did, call the people that didn't get it, because they had interviewed them and put a lot into the process. So I still didn't have any idea when I saw the phone ringing if it was a yes or a no. And I remember picking up the phone, and I believe it was Michelle who called me from the program. And it's so funny, like your brain is just going a mile a minute when you get a phone call like that, and you're just sort of like analyzing in those split seconds as you're listening to the tone of voice, oh my gosh, does it sound like she's excited? Does she sound happy? What's she about to say? And I remember thinking, oh, she doesn't sound very happy. And so I sort of, as soon as I picked up that phone and she, told me who she was, I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's a no, because she just didn't sound really excited off the bat, I guess. But she did say, you know, we're really excited to offer you, you know, a Bonderman Fellowship. And I just remember, I think all I could say was, I think I was like, oh my gosh. And I said, I'm so grateful and I'm so honored. And she basically was like, I'm not going to give you any information over the phone because you're probably not going to retain it anyway because you're really excited and this is a big moment. So just take in the moment. We'll be in touch. We'll email you about everything. But, you know, we obviously just wanted to call and let you know and congratulate you. So it was a really, really exciting moment. And I remember getting off the phone and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and just thinking, like, being so elated. But then there was also this immediate sense of dread, like, oh my gosh, now I have to go. Like, this isn't okay, if I could go anywhere, where would I go? And like, you know, it wasn't theoretical anymore. And I think I hadn't really thought about that reality a lot. I didn't really let myself go there during the application process because I didn't want to get too invested in the outcome of either getting it or not getting it. And so I just sort of let myself dream during the application process and let myself feel really excited. But I hadn't really thought about the reality of what that means to actually go on a trip like this. And so I remember just having this, you know, both really strong feelings all at one time, which was so excited and so honored and so surprised that I got chosen, but also like this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I have to go. Like and fear, you know, it's so much unknown. There's so much uncertainty. I'm a young American woman, white American woman, traveling to a lot of places that are very culturally different, and just feeling like a lot of fear, you know, of not only, you know, for things like my own safety and all of that, but also like wanting to also do this in the right way, low impact, and just really mindfully, you know, I want to travel in a really mindful way. And so just knowing, I guess, that there was and still is so much for me to learn, you know, and try to do and try to understand before I go, but also just a huge learning curve, I know, once I get out there. So I remember calling all, you know, my important people in my life and, you know, feeling really excited, but also like crying and being like, oh my gosh, like I'm really scared, and just a lot of mixed emotions. But overall, just insanely excited. And I think, you know, it's now been over a year. It's been almost a year and a half of waiting and, you know, having meetings and not really sure what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. It's never really been a question of if I was going to go. They were very clear throughout this entire process that they're committed to providing this for us. So it wasn't a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And, you know, there's been a lot of uncertainty too, and some struggle for me, I guess, not struggle, but just some challenges in terms of how I approach this limbo time of not yet on the trip, obviously, but knowing that that's coming, and it's obviously a very significant trip, 8 months long. And so it definitely, you know, is something where I have felt like I can't really root down too much right now, and everything has felt sort of temporary, you know, like in the midst of all this, I finished grad school, I moved to Las Vegas from Seattle, left my family and my friends at home, and, you know, took an internship down here and then took a job, and, you know, but not really having all of my stuff even here with me, and knowing that, you know, I'm going to be leaving here at some point after the first of the year, and I'm going to be quitting my new job, and, going on a trip abroad for 8 months. And then I think some of my, anxiety recently too has been, well, what do I do when I get back? I'm gonna have to get a job, and where do I wanna live? And there's an incredibly liberating aspect to that. I mean, overwhelmingly, that's what I'm feeling about it, is intense gratitude for this insane opportunity to go on this trip, but also what a beautiful opportunity it is for me to sort of also hit the reset button on my life and really be very deliberate about where I want to be and what I want to be doing after that. And I think that I'm just really acutely aware that that's not an opportunity. That is a privilege, a huge privilege. And that is not an opportunity that many people get, to just come have this trip, first of all, and then also be able to then come back and ask themselves where they want to be and where they want to go, and how they want to, proceed after that. So, there's also a lot of anxiety that comes with that, because I'm, my personality type is to kind of want to know, but I'm also embracing the challenge of letting things be uncertain and letting things unfold in front of me, and knowing that there's a path there, even if I don't quite see all the steps yet. So, in general, overarchingly, I am so grateful. I am so excited. And I'm even more excited now to be able to feel like I'm at a good point kind of in this timeline to start sharing about this process. And, I definitely want to share as much as I can in terms of, some kind of video diary type stuff where I talk about things like this, about how I'm feeling, which is probably more for me than it is for anyone else, let's be honest. So congratulations if you made it this far in the video. But also just some really practical things like where I'm gonna go, and as I make travel plans, sharing some of that as much as I feel sort of safe to do that. And then also other very practical things like I have bought nothing. And I don't even know where to start. I don't even know what to buy. I don't know what kind of bag to carry. I don't know how much stuff to bring. I have no clue. There's so much stuff that I'm feel like I need to learn, but I'm also really excited to share the process too. And, as I learn and as I grow, in this process, being able to share that. But then also, I'm hoping that some of you who are watching might have some of your own experiences and your own tips and your own, things that you can share too. This is not just for me to put out into the world what's going on in my life, but also to feel like I maybe have a little bit of a community here that I'm building through creating this content, so that as I walk through the process, I feel like, there's kind of a two-way exchange of, information and all of that. So anyway, I think that about covers it for my first video. Again, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. And I don't really know what people say at the end of a YouTube video, like, subscribe, share, whatever those things are. But again, I'm going to figure all of that out as I go too, in terms of this content creation situation. But that's it for now, I guess. So thanks for watching.